and digging deeper into what the future holds for all of us and how you need to upskill for the coming future, I'm thrilled to have with us Poonam Mehta, who has started a firm, AMPM, with her husband, drawing on their combined experience of 26 plus years. Akash and Poonam established AMPM Designs in 2014. Today, the Pune-based designers take great pride in being called India's top luxury designers, and they have made it to the Forbes 30 under 45 list. The brand's design ethos stems from a desire to craft exquisite things of lasting beauty, intimately suited to each client's unique personality and vision. They harness the latest technology, incorporate it in the simplest forms, and this design boutique helps fashion luxury spaces of the future, positioning Poonam very well to talk about the future of interiors design and a little bit of architecture. Poonam has studied at the University of Arts, London. On a more personal note, I've had the pleasure and honor of knowing Poonam outside of work as a friend. She is full of life. She has this insane vivre de joie, and just loves life and is constantly curious about people, things, and experiences, which I think she really does bring into her work. So firstly, Poonam Mehta, thank you for doing this interview. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Vibha. I really like the intro. It's intense. I'm actually really excited to talk about the future with you. And I think who better to kind of put this whole curation together. And you're fantastic with whatever you're doing. I absolutely enjoy your company in as a friend. And of course, what all you do is amazing. You really amuse us.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Poonam. All right, so on that note, as we sort of start setting the context for this conversation, when we came up with this book title and we said, hey, we should talk about the future, people ask us, why write a book about the future? Everyone's saying live in the now, live in the present. You're writing a book on the future. So we think it's an important topic, but from where you sit, why talk about the future? Why is this even an important topic?
Design is just the only thing that kind of is disintegrating and reinventing itself on its own constantly. This is one space that I feel that we think we know it all, and then suddenly there's something else. Boom, there's some other technology that we have to completely drive ourselves and learn it and relearn it. So we are constantly not just kind of evolving, but we have to relearn everything. We have to kind of work. Future is so exciting for design as a platform. I think that we are really going towards, with AI coming in, for example, there is so much that one is moving towards. There is a lot of stress on whether human design is going to be accepted or no. But I think in the end we are way intelligent than that. But then eventually there is so much. That's just one part of technology that I'm talking about. But future definitely. Design and future are constantly evolving, and I think that way we're hand in hand to evolve. So
okay. So you're saying design moves quickly, design is disruptive. So yeah. as you sort of go deeper into exploring design and people's homes, etc., important for you to keep a pulse on the future because it changes, it's constantly evolving.
Constantly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, you touched upon AI, and since you touched upon that topic, let's talk about it. So yeah. What is going on what is the intersection of AI and design? What's going on in the space? How much traction are you seeing? How much AI are you already using in the workspace? What's going on?
We've actually got our Saturdays and rather now we're doing Friday evenings where we are actually as an office coming together and discussing AI. We have also got people who are already deep into it to kind of come and educate the entire office to see how this could be an added advantage in terms of speed, in terms of, just how fast we can actually do presentations and mood boards and things like that. So yeah, it's so, and of course, with the further into a lot of other softwares that we use, a lot of fluid design or design that we thought was so much difficult to kind of create on as prototype is becoming so much more easier. So 3D printing, things like that is just becoming easier and complex at the same time. So I think, yeah, why not? We are going with the flow. We're actually accepting it, and that's the only way forward.
Okay, so you are seeing it coming to the workspace. There's 100%. No running away from it.
100%.
Okay, as the fraternity, is the community threatened by it in any capacity? Are people worried that AI is going to come in and take over certain segments of the design space?
Again, rightly said, yes, because A lot of design, like it could also mean a lot of firms and individuals have kind of worked in a very old school fashion, and that fashion can never be kind of not been respected. I think that is something that people have worked with. It kind of makes a lot of story and heritage and all of this into kind of their main focus point, and then they kind of elaborate further in design to that. So yeah, maybe that part of designers, that whole segment of designers may be feeling threatened at what is going on, but
Hmm.
that's the thing of it, right? Design is we are going towards the future, so whatever it takes to kind of wrap ourselves, we got used to mobile phones from pager to everything, so we are evolving. We'll figure this out.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying some of the more traditional practices, where they're used to traditional methods, are feeling maybe a little insecure, but overall, there seems to be some optimism
Yeah.
in terms of efficiency. Also, you're
Yeah.
seeing this as a productivity game also.
100%. I'm sure that this is going to be speeding up a lot of things. That's what we, at least as a firm, trying to do is see how things can speed up a little bit for us than actually worried about, oh my God, the design's getting copied, or oh my God, this is, so let's just not get there. Let us be still the master of creating and still getting AI to just help us and not kind of overpower us.
Okay, since you've been exploring it, what are some of the obvious sort of implications of AI? As of today, what can it do? What can it do in the design space?
Simple things like we are right now using AI even to kind of create a design philosophy for us. We're also like, so we've designed it, we have a philosophy that we think, and we kind of just nurture it to the system, and then it gives us some real spectrum to this could be possible. So,
Wow.
yeah, so maybe it can also just give you a lot of perspective that maybe, so that is one part that we use. And of course, a lot of other technologies that we're working towards, but it's still in the progress. So let's, um, and
Okay.
yeah, like there is the whole outer space and that kind of experience, but I think that is just something that we want to keep it for the playful thing. And because in the end you still have real clients, real homes, real living experience, and real functionalities to work with. So AI can just do what it needs to do, but eventually you need to get practical and work for the real clients that we have.
Okay, so your work is deeply rooted in realism. They're
Yeah.
real people, they're real homes.
Yes.
Uh, you see the human being still at the center of design. How much do you think the AI can replace the human factor? And where does the supremacy of the human being exist when this in this interplay?
I think 100%. I mean, the human supremacy is a lot more. There is so much more emotion involved. I mean, predominantly the kind of projects we do are residential, and I'm working with some really, um, celebrated individuals who are still making a home, which they could be actually a celebrity outside, but at home they still want to feel safe. They want to feel emotionally fulfilled, and that's the kind of that AI can never match. So maybe I'm hoping that it doesn't match and we still are. So I feel it's very human centric design. It's very bespoke to each individual, and every home has a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings attached to it. So I think that kind of that void is only human centric. You can't kind of get that with an AI.
Okay, I love that. I love how you frame that. It's very beautifully framed. Every home comes with a lot of emotions, and that the AI doesn't know how to replicate. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. I love how you frame it. Beautifully expressed, Poonam. Lovely. Okay,
Thank
great. So let's shift out of AI.
you.
Let's pick another factor. There's a lot of talk about sustainability. It seems to be the buzzword of 2030, 2040, potentially 2050. You know what's going on with climate change. Seems
Yes.
to be a really sort of in our face pandemic coming up if we don't do something to address it. How is sustainability influencing the design space? What's going on,
I think architecture and design is definitely a part. We are setting a path for how humans are going to live in a space, right? And it could just mean like, so we play a huge important role, I think, as designers and architects who are building the future for the way this is the space is going to be perceived. That's one part of it. I think all individuals and I think humans have understood that if this needs to we don't stop with what we've done so far, we need to we're completely setting a wrong foot. We've already set there, but we need to kind of come back and rework. So sustainability is huge, and I think we've understood it, consciously working towards it. It's also difficult when we're doing extremely high-end homes where we're still cladding ridiculous kind of marble all over the walls and floor and everything. But I think the idea is also to kind of, focus on the technology, the know-hows of doing it, the speed, the consistency of kind of removing the unnecessary, it could even mean human resource for that matter, to kind of build things. That is also sustainability. And so we're working on sustainability in various ways. It could just not mean, really working with sustainable materials. That is one part of it, but also working with technologies, working with thing to kind of create spaces and kind of work with. For example, we're doing fresh air systems in homes, and even in spaces. A lot of architects are working with a lot of common spaces that don't need air conditioning, that don't need a lot of, so a lot of natural light coming in. That is the kind of architecture and design that needs to be more celebrated in the future, because we need to go back to the roots and kind of, just be conscious of our environment in total.
Okay, so what are fresh air systems? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So, you anyway do your ductable systems in the entire homes, which are, I'm talking about like big mansions of 20,000, 30,000 square feet, where the air conditioning requirement is huge. So the entire ducting system is anyway traveling for the air conditioning. One simple change in the system in the very beginning, where the air is just taken and is only simply filtered air. So it filters the pollution from outside and then just throws in fresh air system throughout the day. And in the evening, whenever you want the air conditioning turned on, so that is the time you actually just turn on the switch over to air conditioning mode. And that is the fresh air basically eventually just flows into big cool. It eventually then just cools the air and brings it out. So throughout the day, when you don't need like the air conditioning, you just still get a filtered fresh air into the house.
Oh, I see. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so that obviously reduces the load and therefore saves power, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stay on sustainability a little bit. So I love how you said it could be only material. It also means methodology, the engineering, the way you think about designing a space, open air spaces. Let's stick to first basic. Like, what are sustainable materials? What kind of materials are you seeing coming to the forefront? And are these really sustainable from your lens?
It's a cox. It's a lot of these products that come into the market and they say we're sustainable. We're still selling bamboo, and you're selling bamboo materials and you're kind of processing them and everything, because eventually a natural material, when cladded, will create a natural reaction, right? It can catch a fungal, it can catch a something. So it's natural after all. So you are going to treat it. When you're treating it, you're kind of putting chemicals to it. So I don't know how much of it is really sustainable. The product is, but the treatment and the processes that it goes through somehow just doesn't live up to the entire story of calling it a sustainable product. So I just go, laughing around and say, I mean, it's I think we're all trying as individuals. People are innovating products. It's great, but it's somewhere maybe because it needs to be eventually applied and the maintenance comes together. That's when the chemical, is used to kind of protect that. So yeah, so product is there, but we still, the process of kind of making the product sustainable still kind of getting lost in the process. So that I feel we're not completely there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are many products. There are a lot
Many.
of products. Like there is the guy who's sitting and kind of turning plastic into different kind of composite materials that we can actually use for our exterior claddings. So yeah, and paints and whatnot is kind of happening together. But I think there is a lot of innovation going on, especially in the design industry, where materials are taken and converted into something completely usable.
Okay, so there's a lot of innovation. People are trying.
Yeah.
Whether they have hit that 100% sustainable material or not, we don't know, but at least there seems to be some effort.
Yeah, at least there's research, and a lot of it is done in India. You might be surprised that there's a lot of stuff that is going on just in India, where we're talking about hardcore manufacturing itself. Which
Okay.
earlier back then, I'm saying just exactly 10 years from now, everything in terms of the raw material, I mean, not just I wouldn't say raw materials, but the actual cladded materials, and the whole apprehension towards using maybe an Italian product or a Chinese product was a lot more. Now we're actually really open to Indian technologies, Indian products. So that India has really post, I think, COVID, I'm seeing a boom in the Indian industry, even in the furniture market. There's
Okay, great.
a lot
Okay.
going on. Yeah.
And of course, if people consume locally, then the whole exporting of product, bringing it in here, etc. So that's a big carbon footprint
The
that
whole,
gets eliminated.
exactly, the whole logistics and ecosystem brings, I mean, it's insane balance that we're going. I haven't traveled to China after COVID. It's
Hmm.
been 4 years. And before that, I would travel at least maybe four
Yes.
times a year.
4 or 5 times a year. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Okay.
and even then we would try and go there and take three clients at the same time, go and stay there for 10, 15 days. So we've done that kind of stuff, and we're just happy that people have understood that either we go online and pick things and trust the process and kind of go doing this without having to travel, which is great because back then the whole idea of going, we have to travel, we have to see it physically and then get it. I think the mentality is moved. And see, look at us just virtually doing a call and not sitting together and
Yeah.
coffee and
Yeah,
feel
that
completely okay about it.
saved 6 hours of travel time to Pune and a lot of petrol in the process. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me, what are materials that will cease to exist in the future? Are there certain materials which you see just like 20 years ago there were certain materials, but marble seems to be sort of this all infinite sort of material. People still love marble; it never seems to go out of fashion. But are there materials you see that will slowly start getting removed from your sort of supply chain list? Is there anything like that?
I think I for sure think wood is going to completely, have a feel of it's going to be replaced by another material. There are already a lot of them in the industry, but people still go back to having veneers and wooden materials cladded for reasons. But I'm thinking there's so much that one can look at wood looking materials which are not wood and they look exactly the same, they feel the same, and I think definitely that's the way the future is going to become. So I think a use of wood would probably go down to a good percentage. I mean, more than half.
Okay, which again is good again for the environment, right? You're cutting less
Absolutely.
fewer trees, etc. for this wooden look that people seem to
Yeah.
like in
You
their
rather
house.
have fresh landscape outside your house or around the space, but why have so much wood cladded in the house?
Okay, and is there a cost issue with sustainable materials? Do they come at a higher price? What is the cost
That's
benefit equation?
So that is exactly where, when I'm meeting these vendors, the cost is, let's say, 15-20% minimum. This is the minimum because some of them are more than that, 20% more than the actual cost of the product. Now, if I have to convince my client that this product is sustainable, but this is also 20% higher, it just gets that much more difficult for me to convince him to do that. He'll say, why do I need this? I can just go with the natural material. So then that is where I think the more we produce, the more sustainable products they'll be able to produce. Because I understand from the vendor's point of view, they're not able to produce that much to kind of cut costs that much. So
Mm.
eventually, the more the game gets solid with all these people and we kind of start buying, that I think the price will eventually kind of fall flat and we will have equal price. And then
Okay.
the choice will become.
Okay, so the supply chain needs to sort of play its part. You need just more influx of these products, and hopefully then you see that cost
I think
economies of
eventually,
scale also come.
exactly, eventually, even all the designers too need to pay that part and then somehow convince them so that the supply chain increases, etc.
Okay, but you're not seeing this thrust from the customer side. Do you now get customers who come up front and tell you, Poonam, build me a sustainable home, make sure you're not using material that's
No, no,
pollutant,
no,
etc. You're not seeing it.
not in the high-end segments.
You're not seeing it, huh?
Sure.
No. Oh, you're not seeing it. Okay.
Yeah, because it's all about how I need to feel. There is more, like I just said, there's more emotion to it. I have the money. This is my one dream home. So it's
Wow.
just all of that as the priority compared to, okay, let me still make a sustainable choice.
Okay. So then there needs to be some education, sounds like, on the consumer's end as well to start building.
For the interior industry as well, because I think
Yes.
when we're talking about buying homes, everyone's coming up with amazing luxury homes.
Hmm.
They all are now given, like builders are giving them as a bare shell, which is thankfully earlier would give them with a really bad looking marble, and then we are breaking it
And
everything.
then replacing.
That is that's like the worst thing that you could do to a site. So at least now things are getting better, but I think one needs to educate the entire system needs to feel, I mean, sustainable for them is other things. Like it's not building a home for the
It's
end.
not. Okay, okay. So you're not really seeing this trend in India, at least in the luxury segment as of today.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. So great. We've spoken a little bit about AI, we've spoken a little bit about sustainability. Let's talk a little bit about design. What's going on in the design space? What are trends you're seeing in the design space? What are people looking for? What's going on? What's the buzz in the design space?
One, there is a whole lot of mass that I think just gets inspired. Their design is fashion, right? It keeps evolving. You kind of go back to sometimes you go back to the 60s and you go back to the 70s, so the style kind of gets replicated, or there is a fusion of some sort going on all the time. But to me, I think now what I'm seeing, a choice of a lot of my clients coming to me are back to timeless classic projects. So they really want to feel like taking you back in time and kind of never want to, because when you're building a house, no matter what, for the future, you're building another 15 to 20 years, you don't want to do anything else to that house. So it's going back to time, actually, to a lot of styles and forms from the architecture, the old, ornate kind of details. They want to bring that back into today's life, is what at least a lot of my clients kind of come back to me. And I'm kind of surprised with the research that they have done. There is, of course, a lot of online research before they hit to a designer and say, this is what we want. So I think that's kind of coming. But of course, there is a whole lot of trend that keeps coming and evolving and changing. And there are a lot of designers who kind of follow that. But I think to me, it's a lot more personal and individual based. And I kind of design as per personality. So design for me is not conceptualized, is no context to a particular why or why we've designed the space. It's personality that kind of gets reflected in the house.
Okay, okay. So you're saying in terms of design trend, looks like the future is going back to the past. They're
Yeah.
sort of digging to the past, and they want to replicate a little bit of the past into the present. Are you seeing at the global stage in terms of design trends? Maybe not in India as much, but since you attend these sort of global shows and
Yes.
furniture shows everywhere, globally, are you seeing a thrust on sustainability? Is that sort of a theme you're seeing when you attend these international fairs, etc.? Or do you think this is a global problem? It's like nowhere really are you seeing this sustainability?
I no, I do see it in global as well, but I think that consciousness, what we see in India is also equally there in global, but it's not. I really don't know the consumer part of it right now. We are designing a house in Switzerland, but the client never spoke about sustainability even once. We kind of pinched it once, and he said, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll see how that goes." And I just need to get a decently good house and at a budget. So in the end, we really come back to budgeting and design. So it's a global problem for sure. And there are products, and we are kind of consciously there, but we're not 100% there for sure. It's we are using some, like even today as a designer, I would say I'm not doing 100% sustainable home. I've never done it. I don't even know if I can still do it at some point.
Okay.
Of maybe I'm hand holding a client who needs to still make his home.
Okay. I think what you're saying, this is sort of, I'm hearing the sentiment echoed. I spoke to this guy who makes, t-shirts, and he said, if I sell a t-shirt that's made of regular cotton, I can put a certain price. Yes, sustainable cotton, etc. I put it out. The minute people see 15-20%, even in a t-shirt level, he said the market is so price sensitive, they just go back to their old buying habits. So I think what you talked about in terms of economies of scale, if we see that coming through, then potentially there might be a shift. Okay, how can
I think the government can definitely do something about that.
Oh my God, that was exactly my question. So what can policymakers do? What can the government do? Let's talk about that.
100%. So but they are doing. I have met a guy who I told you was working with plastic and who was doing a couple of things. Who's also working with sand and basic elements, and he's completely doing some insane research on products. And he was telling me, Poonam, we have so much support from the government. I didn't think that I'm going to be able to pass through. Yes, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of work that one needs to get just to get their support, but there is a lot of support coming in. Maybe the whole paperwork and the whole thing can speeden up. Then maybe a lot of these manufacturers who don't know the know-hows of getting their support from government, but there is support. Is what I'm happy to hear that India is doing that. maybe the whole method and the speed can be better.
Okay, so you're saying reduce the red tape a little bit,
Yeah.
allowing manufacturers to quickly set up base and not do it at such a high entry cost.
Yeah.
Do you see any specific policy coming through saying X percentage of the house material should be used? Do you see like very specific, stringent sustainability norms developing in India?
Not while I don't think I mean, I would love, I mean, if that's a knob that's going to come up, why not we will have to follow it, and then it just becomes a conscious thing for both me and the client to kind of do that effort and put that together. But
Okay.
nothing of that sort yet.
Okay, you're not seeing it coming, but if it does, it sounds like you'd welcome that change.
Absolutely. I mean, we're so open to change. We kind of forget the past so quickly and move forward. This is something that we can adapt to.
Okay, you almost seem ready for that new design challenge. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Okay, what's happening with the urbanization? We're seeing on this the statistic that 70% of India will live in urban centers in the next 15 to 20 years. That means a lot, right? That's implications on city planning, definitely architecture and design, because how do you build this sort of capacity for so many people moving to cities? And then how do you keep the city sustainable? How do you keep the city ecosystem just going? What is the sort of like, what is your view on how they can design smart cities, sustainable cities of the future? Do you have a take on this?
There is so much talent in India right now with urban planners and architects who are actually doing the city planning. And I think the government should just be open to hiring some of the best talents. Could also mean private firms and etc. Because I think there's that, and overlooking I mean, the idea is one knows these are the cities that are coming up. These are the next upcoming cities. So why not develop that from the start, get that planning started instead of, because I still feel there is so much that infra's doing that is kind of destroying what was already created, and we're rerouting everything. So I mean, there is like a patchwork going on instead of actually rooting it from the start, which is where I think we're really lacking. And I think maybe the ones who are deciding this are not even designers. They're not even actually urban planners. They're just somebody sitting in the authority who just thinks that this could probably be the right plan. But why don't hire talent that will actually give you a smarter plan, maybe?
Okay. So
I think from the top
exists.
level, yeah, there needs to be an awakening that they could actually hire some talent and listen to them and then just go ahead doing something better.
Okay. I know you largely do residential, but I want to talk a little bit about workspaces. Are you seeing any shifts in terms of workspaces as people prepare their workspaces for the future in terms of more collaborative workspaces, in terms of more open spaces? Are you seeing any design trends?
100%. We are designing some workspaces currently where everything is getting in. So all of these zones are getting interlocked. So hospitality was a sector that had an essence and a feel like that. Residential is getting a full inspiration from hospitality. Hospitality projects are kind of getting inspiration from homes where they're kind of creating bespoke experiences and kind of going boutique of sort, and that is happening with, again, offices are also taking inspiration from homes because in terms of comfort and all of that, and of course hospitality too. So the whole concierge experience, and when you kind of come in, the experience needs to just start feeling more welcoming than just a desk and but even the larger scale, like to look at the Google office, to look at all these amazing offices right now, co-working spaces. We are a part of the co-work space in the co-works in Bombay, and we love that experience because it's a happy, playful, yet it has its kind of functionality in place. So I think offices are kind of surprising nowadays, and we love that designers kind of evolved so deep into it, and it's not just the cliche commercial project anymore.
Okay, so for what I understood is they take the home comfort experience where they make you sort of feel at home. They take the hospitality experience of a bespoke environment, some sort of cool experience, and they combine this. You're seeing this combination coming into the workspace.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Okay. Are you seeing any sense of collaboration? Are you seeing a shift? You know, there's a huge change, right? I remember my dad used to sit in a cabin. He had the corner cabin. It was all like marble, closed door. I sit in a glass cabin right now. You know, I can see everyone. Everyone can see me talking. So obviously, there's a shift there.
100%. Yeah, I'm in a glass cabin right now, and I mean, I think that kind of came in many years ago, where the open office system kind of came together.
Correct.
Collaborative work came together, team building came together, because earlier, even though the sub, like you're talking about associates or manager in a class thing, would always have a cabin to himself. Now the manager sits with the team and kind of works together. Maybe he just gets a little more elaborate table. But the idea is to kind of constantly work in a cohesive environment, and a lot of team building is created through the work experience itself.
Okay, so you see that trend continuing in the future, more open. Maybe these walls that I have around me will also at some point need to go.
Uh, yes, and a lot of recreational zone out spaces are also happening, because work is getting stressful, and when we learned that something called as work from home is so much easier than getting out to the workspace, I think that's the reason why the whole home comfort is kind of coming into offices, because we eventually want people to come to work. Then you need to create that kind of environment which kind of also helps them zone out. So a lot of recreational spaces that are kind of being part of the
Part of the office space. Okay, great. Okay, we'll shift to the last segment of the conversation, which is about careers of the future and in careers in interiors and architecture generally. What's the shift there? But before that, why, you know, when you were planning your own future, why did you pick this space? Why this industry? Why this sector? Why, you know, obviously we plan our future thinking, hey, I want to be in something that's going to keep me in good stead for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So why did you think this was an interesting career for you?
I think I'm a person who kind of loves change, and that was probably one of the reasons where this evolving, that something constantly is happening. It's not a very monotonous kind of job where I'm doing one project, or it's one kind of thing for the month and it's like logs. You know how, if any other job would be, this is so much more exciting. I'm also, I mean, I've kind of studied psychology. So for me, it was psychology. And then I moved my career to interior design because I was interested in arts and design. So for me, it's a lot more about people, the kind of work, homes I'm doing, kind of, I studied them and I kind of then make a house which they can resonate to. That is a win-win for
You
me.
have an undergraduate degree in psychology.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Lethal combination. You're able to understand people, their brains, their mindsets, and then take your design skills and layer it up. Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You got an advantage over most other designers.
Yes. I think
Okay.
we have maybe a little bit of psychology as a curriculum in interior design itself. Like it could be, because in the end, it's all about how do you negotiate, how do you bring the project on table, and then once you've got it, kind of understanding the client, and then eventually kind of, you know, banging on the right kind of design. How do you decide this is the right design for the client? You need to be sure first to kind of sell the design.
Okay, I think you have a predictive AI in your brain because you're predicting all my upcoming questions. So first I'll close out on your choice of design, because you said you like change and you are a creative person. So this will give you this combination of constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And
creating something, it's for me, creating, innovating, designing, seeing something new, exploring has always been like my top priority. And I think that kind of came together with work. I couldn't ask for another career.
Okay. Yeah, the forces seem to have come together. Also, it seems like people are always going to need homes, offices, cities will keep evolving. So it seems like a career that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Career is not going anywhere for sure. And there is so much that in interior design. So we're just talking about design. There is now a stylist, there is a photography stylist, there is videographers, photographers who also help in just in kind of shooting a project once it's done. You have curators who only curate art for the space. So there is, now it's kind of getting a lot of individual subdivisions which are just in the same field, but it's one can specialize in a lot more and go into.
There are light experts. There's someone who just comes and does the sound. There's someone who contacted me when I built my home saying she'd like to come and just stylize the whole house after the project is done. Okay, that's the stylist. Okay, yeah. So it seems like lots of new industries have also emerged around the primary industry.
Which is a success story of the field itself. Like if that is happening and there is a lot of awakening to that, then that means there is so much one can still go and take from there. Maybe there will be a psychology story for interiors where one can understand what you want and then tell it to the designer who kind of I'm just saying that why not? Future can just be
Okay, okay. Lots of segmentation could come into this industry.
yes.
Okay, great. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about what you touched upon in terms of curriculum changes, having studied interiors yourself. What and since you hire, you're a firm that's growing. I know you're constantly looking at hiring new talent.
Right.
If you had to give advice to the colleges, what would you tell them to teach differently? What would you tell them to add in their curriculum? And is there anything you'd say, hey, get rid of this? It's kind of redundant. We don't really need this sort of skill set.
I think get rid of one thing that I feel that a lot of design schools still go is conceptualize it. They try and talk about concepts. So let's say this is the library, so let's make it a British style. No, I mean, let's not talk about styles. And so where is the innovation when we're talking about styling? So you're just replicating something from what you have seen and kind of replicating the idea. So that to me is a big no-no. And I think don't teach that. Don't even talk about it. Try and create. You have to tell your students to kind of create their own individual style, and that's when you will grow as a designer. So that conceptualizing needs to go away. Second, that would probably add is yes, please now let's get AI and all of these technologies. Let's teach them how that goes, so that every school and whoever kind of comes out as getting onto it. Like if I have to hire somebody who has a lot of knowledge with newer technologies and AI and knows things, then maybe she would be a big boon
asset to the company.
Yeah, so I would probably choose her than somebody else.
Okay, and you touched a little bit about adding some sort of person psychology within the curriculum, so you understand the human brain and consumer behavior.
That was just why not?
Why not? Okay. Yeah. All right, fine. So it seems largely centered around bringing in some AI and technical understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also think interior design and architecture design have the firms, like I think the working atmosphere needs to be thought of like maybe just like another law firm. I mean, you can run a firm and have various, associates who are running their own mini firms within a larger segment, because it's very hard. What is, I think, interior designers today kind of come, learn for 2 years, and then go out there and start exploring and think they're going to become a fantastic designer themselves. Yes, you can, but the whole format of maybe working within a firm and still doing amazing work and getting recognized individually in that firm is also something that I think we need to cooperate, like kind of work this, like this whole flow of system needs to be, because there's a lot of quitting and joining. I've had people who come, who quit, who go for 2 years, figure things out, it's not working. It's not easy to kind of run a firm on your own.
Okay. So you're saying evolve the industry so that you can sort of have micro entrepreneurs within the larger setup and therefore sustain your own firm.
And that actually needs to come from the education also, because they need to be taught that this is the way to kind of grow in a career. Like if you're just gonna make everybody an entrepreneur and everybody is gonna be thinking that I'm gonna have my own individual practice, somehow the whole larger practice is losing its ecosystem, because people are just quitting, coming back, quitting, coming back, and the individual ones are not doing exceedingly well because they're just individual. One person cannot do everything together.
Okay, okay. Any thoughts on adding some sort of finance or business sense in the design schools? Because honestly, the designers I speak to, I'm just like, what happened to your understanding of how expensive this material is? Like, every time I ask my designer for costing or, she's like, I don't know. Let's not get into costing. I said, I have to build out to pay you. You have to pay for the material. The focus is so much on design and aesthetic that the costing I felt like was a big gap, honestly.
100%, Vibha, I think we've added that very well, because I think it's even today. I mean, I struggled in the beginning because I did psychology and then eventually moved into interior design. Both of them did not have anything to do with accounts. Thanks to Akash in my life, we have, the accounts in place. Even that is one part of, with the client budgeting and estimation, we do kind of study that in college. We talk about estimates, but I don't know why there is no detailed discussion. Maybe that could be a complete chapter on its own, maybe. But also, how do you manage your own firm? There is all the accounts and the banking, and is all a part of running a firm also. So that also needs to be a part of maybe some kind of curriculum, which could mean running your own firm and your own business. How do you do that when you start? Because there's a lot more than just designing and having a client.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is very well captured. I think we've spoken about changes companies could make, changes the government could make, changes educationists could make. Last question, and we'll close this conversation. What do you see as careers of the future? What sort of new careers do you see evolving? And do you see any careers getting annihilated, just disappearing?
Careers for the future, there is so much. If I'm just talking about art, there is curating art is one thing. Displaying art in gallery is another thing. A buyer, like a client who's basically hiring you to kind of buy art for them, for their personality, is one thing. So I'm just saying there is so much in this, like every field has its own kind of stems coming out and a lot going on. So career, you can't just be fixed that, okay, I need to be a lawyer, but I think there could be so much more in that. That one could choose, and I could be an interior designer, but there is, maybe you actually just like styling, maybe you don't want to just do the entire, start to the end. So maybe you like the technology part of it, so you again choose what you want to do. So I think the fields are just getting more spread out, and pick one of them. So careers are going to be multiple to choose from.
Okay,
Specializing in one and having
sounds like hyper specialization is the way of the future.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Okay, on that note of hyper specialization, let's close this conversation. Poonam, thanks for bringing your authenticity, your spontaneity, and your deep expertise that shone through this conversation. Thanks for laying out lots of trends for the future, lots of advice for different factions of society. Hopefully people will listen and take some of your advice to heed. I surely will. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, terrific. Thank you.